Before the storm fully breaks, one thing is already clear: Boruto, 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 29 is sending a warning, not an invitation. The early leak hits hard. Kawaki returns with his karma activated, while Boruto dominates the cover in a red-drenched visual, his own karma radiating danger. This isn't simple hype or fan service. It's a signal that the story has crossed a critical threshold. The conflict is no longer operating in the shadows, and careful maneuvering is being replaced by direct, unavoidable confrontation. Every major force is being pushed onto the battlefield, whether they're ready or not. As the Shinju threat grows and Momoshiki's movements accelerate, hesitation becomes a luxury no one can afford. Kawaki's arrival with active karma marks a decisive shift, while Boruto's own stance suggests that isolation is no longer an option. The narrative pivots toward raw power, high risk, and irreversible consequences. With the divine tree itself now in focus and silent figures like Jura watching from the sidelines, Chapter 29 sets the stage for a brutal escalation, one where survival matters more than strategy, and where the line between human resolve and godlike power begins to blur. Before we go any further, make sure you smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and flood the comments with your thoughts so we can keep this anime storytelling hype alive together. Alright, let's waste no time and jump straight into it. Here we go. The early leak from Boruto, 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 29 immediately sent a strong signal. Kawaki appears with his karma activated, while Boruto dominates the cover page, drenched in red with his own karma on display. This visual doesn't feel like simple hype bait. Instead, it works more like a warning, one that clearly suggests the main conflict has entered its most dangerous stage, where hesitation is no longer an option and every faction is forced to act. With the chaos already escalating due to Momoshiki's moves and the growing threat of the Shinju, Kawaki's return with an active karma marks a major turning point. Boruto, who had stepped into the conflict earlier on his own, is no longer fighting in isolation. The narrative shifts sharply here, away from careful planning and hidden maneuvers, toward open confrontation driven by raw power. At this point, the key question is no longer about tactics, but about who can survive once destruction becomes unavoidable. Looking back at the previous chapters, Momoshiki had already begun targeting Ida. However, Boruto and his allies clearly weren't caught off guard. A backup plan was already in motion. Now, Boruto has directly confronted Shinju, the divine tree itself, the core threat behind everything. What makes the situation even more critical is Boruto activating his karma as well. This confirms that the conflict has crossed every safe boundary and entered truly lethal territory. Breaking down the spoiler panel from Chapter 29, Kawaki is shown at the top with a cold, focused expression. One hand is raised in front of his face, suggesting either defense or the preparation of an attack. Dark markings spread from his arm across his body, leaving no doubt that karma is fully active. In the next shot, Kawaki is airborne, gripping a weapon, body leaning forward with one leg raised and his black cloak flowing behind him. Everything about this posture screams speed and intent. This isn't a cautious approach, it's a decisive, destructive strike. From a story perspective, this panel also delivers another surprise. Kawaki summons black rods, accompanied by a clear change in his eyes. This alone dismantles the assumption that his ocular abilities were permanently gone. The power is still there, and very much usable. His sudden burst of speed strongly suggests that Boruto has already activated, or is about to activate, his own karma as well. Tension escalates further with the silent appearance of Jura. No dialogue, no explanation, just presence. And that silence feels deliberate, like the calm before something far worse breaks loose. Chapter 29 isn't simply about power-ups. It's about cosmic inevitability. From the cover page and a single panel alone, the direction of the story becomes clear, darker, harsher, and more brutal. Boruto's red karma radiates a chilling aura, and his expression reportedly resembles Momoshiki's. Even the chapter title, translated as pest control, directly frames the coming conflict, especially against Momoshiki, as something merciless and absolute. This is no longer a routine mission. It's a critical moment where Boruto may be willing to cross dangerous lines, even striking a risky deal with Momoshiki, just to protect people like Himawari or Ida. What makes this even more intriguing is how deliberate everything feels. Boruto has escaped death too many times for it to be coincidence. It's as if some unseen force insists on his survival. This is where the cosmic theories come into play. Omnipotence, Shirbai Otsutsuki, the Jugen, and divine-level interference shaping Boruto's path from the very beginning. What some dismiss as plot armor may actually be intentional design, echoing concepts from Samurai 8, a creator god, a chosen successor, and a reality that functions like a program system. The parallels with Samurai 8 grow stronger when viewed through this lens. Cosmic creators like Fudomayu, destined heirs such as Hakimaru, and artifacts that dictate the fate of existence itself. If this framework applies to Boruto, then the Jugen isn't just another dojutsu. It's a hidden cosmic key. Even Future Sight may fail to account for its awakening, because Boruto represents a singularity, an anomaly protected from precognition itself. At its core, Boruto's story no longer feels like a tale of a ninja struggling against fate. It's becoming the story of a human prepared to confront gods, or perhaps decide the direction of reality itself. Whether Boruto ascends to a godlike state or becomes the final weapon against universal collapse, one thing is certain: Two Blue Vortex is clearly setting up an endgame far larger than what's visible on the surface. Zooming out, Kawaki's appearance in the opening panel isn't just flashy fan service. It functions as a clear signal that the central conflict has entered a phase of direct collision between major forces. Boruto is already face-to-face with Shinju, while Kawaki steps in without hesitation. This strongly implies that the backup plan, mentioned earlier, is now fully underway. Kawaki activating karma also sends an important message. He is far from out of options. Many believed his power had been significantly diminished after recent events, but this panel proves otherwise. The dark aura surrounding him, the shift in his eyes, and the way he enters the battlefield all point to one thing: Kawaki still possesses devastating potential. The dynamic between Kawaki and Boruto at this moment feels especially striking. They're no longer just rivals or adoptive brothers walking different paths. They're two shinobi shaped by extreme destinies. Kawaki doesn't arrive as a savior, he arrives as a combat partner willing to take the harshest possible measures to end the threat. This alone pushes the coming battles into much darker territory. Meanwhile, Jura's silent appearance adds heavy psychological pressure. In manga storytelling, characters who appear without speaking are often observing or waiting. Jura may not act immediately, but his presence alone feels like a trigger for an even greater escalation. Judging by Kishimoto's recent narrative patterns, it's unlikely that Chapter 29 will resolve this conflict in a single installment. More likely, it serves as the opening act of a prolonged and brutal arc. Kawaki's assault lights the fuse, and Boruto, armed with active karma, will follow with an even more extreme display of power. This direction perfectly aligns with Two Blue Vortex's darker, more mature, and uncompromising tone. In the end, this single panel accomplishes a lot at once. It confirms the release schedule, shuts down hiatus rumors, proves that Kawaki's powers are far from gone, and makes it clear that Chapter 29 will waste no time getting started. Now, it's just a matter of waiting for the full leaks, but one thing is already certain: the real battle has officially begun. For Boruto, this moment represents a major turning point in the reawakening of Otsutsuki power. Boroshiki's presence resurfaces, not as a complete takeover, but as a calculated alignment, Boruto and Momoshiki operating, at least temporarily, on the same side. Chapter 29 clearly isn't aiming for small-scale events. The convergence of two active karma users suggests a direct confrontation with Momoshiki, one of the most dangerous Shinju entities born from the Ten Tails ego. From a more grounded narrative perspective, Chapter 29 is far more likely to serve as an escalation chapter rather than a conclusion. Kawaki's karma activation reads less like an emotional outburst and more like a firm declaration of intent. He steps into the conflict not because he wants to, but because the situation has crossed a point where inaction is no longer an option. The rise of the Shinju, Momoshiki's movements, and the growing threats surrounding Ida collectively eliminate any remaining room for hesitation. At the same time, Kawaki's karma should not be interpreted as a full return to his former peak. A more logical interpretation is that the power still exists, but only in a constrained and unstable form. The black rods and eye transformation point toward limited access to leftover Otsutsuki abilities rather than a complete restoration. This aligns with Boruto's long-standing narrative rule: immense power always comes with a cost. The strength is real, but so is the danger it poses to its user. Boruto's situation follows a similar logic. His karma activation, if it occurs, is best understood as a last resort measure rather than a freely controlled transformation. Up to this point, Boruto has consistently tried to distance himself from Momoshiki's influence. If cooperation does happen, it likely comes as a temporary compromise, an uneasy truce formed solely to counter the Shinju threat, not a surrender of control. Any partnership between them would be conditional, tense, and tightly restricted. Jura's silence also carries strategic weight. In large-scale conflicts, characters like this often function as latent disruptors, not immediate actors, but variables capable of flipping the battlefield at any moment. Jura's restraint suggests observation rather than indecision, possibly waiting for Boruto and Kawaki to exhaust themselves before intervening. As for Momoshiki, it would be unrealistic for such a figure to be defeated outright in Chapter 29. As the strongest ego-born Shinju, Momoshiki is narratively positioned as a long-term adversary. A more believable outcome is a display of overwhelming difficulty, showing that even the combined force of two karma users is not enough to secure an easy victory. This reinforces the scale of the threat and prevents the tension from collapsing too early. The chapter title, often interpreted as Pest Control, likely carries symbolic meaning rather than a literal promise of elimination. It may reflect the worldview of higher beings, Otsutsuki or similar entities, who see humans, Shinju, or even Boruto himself as components of a system that must be regulated. In this sense, the conflict extends beyond physical combat and enters ideological territory. Taken together, a rational reading of Chapter 29 suggests it will confirm Kawaki's direct involvement in the conflict, reinforce that karma remains usable, but only with severe limitations, place Boruto and Kawaki on the same battlefield against a shared threat, establish Momoshiki as a sustained, long-term antagonist, initiate a broader conflict rather than resolve one. Through this approach, Two Blue Vortex maintains a sense of scale without rushing fully into overt godhood. The story remains anchored in clear cause and effect logic. Threats escalate, choices narrow, and characters are forced to rely on powers they would rather leave untouched. Thanks a lot for staying with me till the end. If you have any questions or ideas, write them down below. See you in the next one.